The Grimes Sisters, Unraveling the Mystery, Part 2. It was a brisk January morning in 1957 when a chilling discovery turned the mystery of the Grimes sisters' disappearance into a haunting tragedy. Two construction workers stumbled upon the frozen bodies of Barbara and Patricia Grimes, lying lifeless beside a snowy embankment in Willow Springs, Illinois. The sight was harrowing, a scene of innocence frozen in time. The sisters, once vibrant teenagers, were found unclothed, covered in marks that only deepened the chilling questions surrounding their fate. Barbara was just 15, Patricia 13. Their disappearance less than a month earlier had gripped all of Chicago in fear, transforming their tragedy into a media firestorm. But now, as a new chapter unfolded, the somber question echoed louder than ever. What truly happened to Barbara and Patricia? An autopsy revealed that both girls likely died within hours of their disappearance. Official reports attributed the cause to shock and exposure, but the findings raised more questions than answers. Investigators also noted troubling signs of possible foul play, bruises and puncture wounds, yet no definitive conclusions were drawn. To complicate matters further, the time of death determined by pathologists clashed with witness testimonies claiming to have seen the girls alive days after they disappeared. Could these sightings have been mistakes, or did they hold the key to understanding their tragic fate? The residents of Chicago, particularly those in the sisters' Brighton Park neighborhood, were shaken to their core. The incident wasn't just about a tragic loss anymore. It was a rupture in their sense of safety. Parents held their children closer, unable to ignore the cold reality. If two innocent teens could vanish in the blink of an eye, who else might be next? At first, the police and public suspected an opportunistic predator, perhaps a shadowy figure lurking on the bustling streets of Chicago. But over time, that simple explanation unraveled. As investigators dug deeper, a web of conflicting details, potential suspects, and false narratives emerged, turning the hunt for justice into a labyrinthine puzzle. At the height of the investigation, local law enforcement was bombarded with leads, tips, and confessions. One man after another came forward, each claiming to be responsible for the deaths of Barbara and Patricia. Some confessions became elaborate tales of abduction and murder, while others were vague and attention-seeking. One suspect, 21-year-old Edward Benny Bedwell, captivated police with his account. He told a story filled with sordid details of offering the sisters drinks and coercing them, but he quickly became unreliable under scrutiny. His version of events didn't fit the forensic evidence, and it became apparent he was fabricating his confession to build infamy for himself. The phenomenon of false confessions became another thread in the gruesome fabric of this mystery. But why lie about something so heinous? Was it a mix of psychological manipulation and pressure from law enforcement? Or was it the draw of notoriety in an era where media attention could immortalize such claims? To understand this tragic case, one must step into 1950s Chicago, a post-war city of growing opportunity, but also steeped in darkness. Violence simmered beneath the surface, with organized crime, corruption, and systemic failures leaving their indelible marks. In this context, it's not hard to imagine how deeply the Grimes sisters' case resonated. People whispered about predators and conspiracies. The unsettling notion that someone in their midst, perhaps even someone they knew, could harbor dark intentions. Could systemic flaws in policing and social attitudes prevent the truth from surfacing? The Grimes case forced Chicagoans to confront broader issues about safety and justice in a world that was rapidly evolving, but still holding on to its sinister underpinnings. Although dozens of individuals became suspects in the case, none were conclusively linked to the sisters' deaths. Certain individuals were interrogated at length, each with enough mystery to appear plausible, but not enough evidence to bring forth charges. Among these faces emerged characters who occupied Chicago's criminal underworld, and those whose sketches paralleled the imaginations of horror. Some still believe the killer or killers were hidden in plain sight. an unsuspecting citizen who simply silenced their secrets with the passage of time. Others suggest it could have been the work of a serial predator who struck once and avoided detection for the rest of their life. Over the years, theorists have pieced together possible explanations, but no single narrative has ever been universally accepted. One theory suggests that the sisters ran afoul of strangers who offered them a ride, a common scenario in mid-20th century true crime cases. Another posits they were kidnapped and held captive for several days before their tragic demise. Even more disturbing is the idea that this was not the work of a stranger at all. Stories abound that someone in the sisters' circle, perhaps a jealous acquaintance or a trusted figure, may have lured them to harm. Yet no evidence has ever come forward to substantiate such claims, leaving the theory to fester in speculation alone. An unusual aspect of the Grimes sisters case is its connection to cultural icon Elvis Presley. The sisters had been devoted fans, their final hours spent at a screening of his movie asterisk, Love Me Tender asterisk. Fans of Presley cherished his music, and Barbara and Patricia were no different. Their love for his art seemed to symbolize their innocence, their lives before the cruel twist of fate. Interestingly, when the news of their disappearance reached Elvis himself, even he was moved to appeal for their safe return. Presley went on national television, urging the sisters to come home if they were hiding out. Tragically, their story ended long before the King of Rock's plea could be heard. Despite the best intentions of law enforcement, the investigation was hampered by the forensic limitations of the time. DNA testing, advanced crime scene analysis, and profiling, all tools available to modern investigators, were still decades away. Miscommunications and poor evidence handling only compounded the complications. As pieces of the puzzle failed to fit together, frustration grew among officials and the victims' families. Detectives worked tirelessly but found themselves lost in a sea of fragmented clues. If this crime had taken place today, would the Grimes sisters' killer have been brought to justice? That haunting question lingers still, more than 65 years later. For the Grimes family, life after the tragedy was a shadow of what it once was. Loretta Grimes, their devoted mother, became a heartbroken figure, carrying the weight of unanswered questions to her grave. She fought tirelessly to keep the memory of her daughters alive, but faced the cruel reality that closure might never come. The sisters' siblings also had to grapple with the lasting impact of their loss. They lived on with a void that no passage of time could fill, their lives forever defined by that fateful December night in 1956. With each passing year, stories of Barbara and Patricia Grimes drift further into history, but their mystery refuses to be forgotten. True crime enthusiasts, journalists, and investigators continue to revisit the case, their efforts driven by the same burning question: who took these girls and why? Even as advancements in investigative techniques illuminate other cold cases, the truth surrounding the Grimes sisters remains elusive. Could there still be someone out there holding answers? What makes the Grimes sisters' case resonate so deeply even today is its raw humanity. Beneath the shroud of mystery are two young lives, full of promise, cut short by an unforgivable act. Their story reminds us to keep asking questions, challenging silence, and seeking justice for all those who can no longer speak for themselves. This case is more than an unsolved crime. It's a tragic chapter in history that holds a mirror to our darkest fears and vulnerabilities. As we reflect on justice delayed, we are reminded that justice denied must never be accepted. The mystery of Barbara and Patricia Grimes endures, casting a somber shadow over Chicago's history. Yet with each retelling, their memories are kept alive. They were not just victims of a gruesome tragedy. They were sisters, daughters, teenagers with dreams and a love for Elvis Presley. As we close part 2 of this haunting story, we encourage you to share your thoughts and theories. Who do you think was responsible for this crime? What could have been done differently to solve it? Let's honor their memory by continuing the conversation, refusing to let this case drift into forgotten history. The pursuit of truth is never over, and for the Grimes sisters, it's a journey worth taking. Stay tuned as we unravel more dark tales, unresolved mysteries, and stories that keep us searching for answers in an uncertain world. Until next time, remember, the past is always closer than we think.